Welcome. I'm so glad that you can join me here today. 264, excerpts 657 and 58. This is from The Sovereign Light, named after my ministry. And this is a course in metaphysical spirituality. And my name is Reverend Maria Arvanitidis. How do you do? I'm so honored for your presence in this moment, to resonate, and for whatever reason that has brought you here to this attention. And today, this episode is on lesson 230. Pointer number 5 on what is the soul and how is it different from the ego, from the mind, from the filtered awareness. And what kind of experiences have led up to this? I want you to just take a moment to filter through your perspective that finds you here in this reality with me. And as it vibrates through to your screen and my screen into your holographic field, take it in, take it all in with every breath. And out. Find your center, most still point. Exactly where the fontanelle used to be, and now it's a fissure. And just picture it as a pillar of bright, Christed, crystalline light, very white, blue from the sky and clouds. It should make it easy. And find that sovereign light and let the sunshine in. And let it soothe and nurture with its nutrients of its photonic presence, that we may receive it in with every breath. And out through the heart space center, and just anchor that in. Anchor it in through your heart space center, this congregation where the soul does meet, and all the way down to your solar plexus, sacral, and root. Again, where we find ourselves in that surge, that fiery surge up from the tailbone, from the soles of the feet. Again, just breathe in the mana, the earth. Now here we go again. I don't know how it was recording. And I will make this a short session, and I will continue on again just in case, perhaps. Oh, Let's keep going. Sometimes this thing likes to slow down on my laptop and it goes to sleep, and then the timing gets thrown off. And so no recording and re-recording is going to bring back the original, authentic, this one here in this moment, this special moment. And as we breathe in from our soles of our feet, all the way up, like I was saying, you have your back straight, and whether you be in a lotus sitting down position or even flat on your back in a lying position, preferably standing, either way, you're looking at your feet. If you're standing like me, shoulder width apart, and that through the soles of your feet, that diameter from the inside, you know, that curvature, just notice it expanding from a dime to a quarter, and just the perimeter of your feet to outline the sole in between, right here. I'm using my hand as an example. And just take that and see the roots growing all the way down to the core of the earth. And just bring all that up, that energy, that light. And again, picture that pillar. Picture it in like the same, all the way down, and meeting at where that space between your feet at shoulder width and your tailbone. If you want, you can see it as a kind of like a triangle, and all the way up. And like that surge that we get when we awaken that primal Kundalini force that comes from our adrenals and our tailbone, again, that becomes a pyramid, and it gets activated and it goes up like you would see in the caduceus, as I have. And as you continue reading, it will all make sense, right to the back where the emblem of this ministry. And so continue on with deep, deep breaths. And when you're ready and you're there and you've found your center, you will know, you will have opened up into this serene, peaceful place. And from within, let's begin this lesson for today on what is the soul and how is it different from the ego. How immortal is the soul in measure of consumption of another life form, and that the self can live for it to die. Not more than the essence of its flesh to temporarily feed the body of the self with. The ego, mind, works well to help in the survival mode, and with it, the hunter and its victim are both one and the same. Cycle/recycle. And with this intro, let's begin today's activation daily affirmation, and what best works for you now that you're able in the advanced level of the ability to modify. And won't you join me to say these words out loud? Sounds good. And take a breath in and out. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? This might trigger something in you when we question in these frequencies, these levels. This is kind of taking you down a little bit in frequency, if you're not down there already, to kind of remorsefully bring you back up, depending on the frequency you're at, to come to these conclusions, to ask yourself and the universe this question, that it may serve you well throughout your day. And say it again. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? And take another breath in. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? And take another deep breath in. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? So this might be a little bit of a kick to the behind or upside the head, or make you feel some kind of guilt. Or, it all depends on where you're at and how you're feeling. You might deny it altogether. And where exactly do you leverage in this thing called responsibility? So when you're actually eating or consuming of another flesh, meaning eating animals, when we take the life, meaning the awareness of something that is also aware of itself, and within its own reality, having this experience within its body to share with us, with Mother Nature, and her expression of her soul through the essence of these sentient beings all around us, in that fruits and vegetables from the trees, everything is alive and living. Now, the difference is some are asleep. And when something is asleep, is it okay to take advantage of it? Is it okay to take its life? Is it okay to feed off its energy, to enslave it, and let it, be codependent, a relationship where you feed upon its energy as it works for you, and this trickery of money and fiat currency? There's a lot to talk about. So I might as well just get on with this read, because there's many levels of this. Depending on where you're at, it might bring you to another level, or it might bring you in the same level that you're at to explore why you're not moving upward, or it might bring you down a notch so that you can realize and refine the meaning of responsibility within your sovereign being. And so, for the most part, we're not the ones doing the killing. We're not the ones doing the sacrifice. Others are. And like how it first started, during certain times of the year that we have celebrations, like, the Panathenians that used to sacrifice lamb or mutton. It always was the male in the industry that used to get sacrificed, that used to go out to war and kill itself for its country and its people, and again to giving up of its soul and its flesh for consumption, that the gods would feast upon. And certain deities that we would sacrifice the lamb to, let's say, Athena, and other entities that we first started, perhaps even as vegetarians, that we did not eat meat and we only ate at certain times of the year, and we would perform these sacrifices and have these celebrations where everybody would come together. It's still steeped in the traditional ways that we've kind of trickled down and kind of obscured, and it's totally, the lens is not focused anymore. It's more of a blur, to say the least, of all these generations before us. And now we're just not sure what it means to actually go and hunt or fish, and how that feels. I mean, First Nations people, what exactly they do, the meaning of prayer and what that was, how it all began. It is in this affirmation that perhaps will reawaken and remind your soul connection to your awareness, to your spirit. And so, from the primal infestation of a predatory mind, did the self evolve, and yet it still will conflict with its many sides in clusters to war over the meaning and that of its ego-driven power. What it means to thrive, what it means to survive, to be in the survival mode or a thriving mode, and how it is we get there. The soul will hold on to all and any memory from lifetimes over and previous, from its lineage, that have yet to be resolved, to be rekindled, and to play out again. When there is nothing much more left and the soul can be clean to rise into ascension, it can transcend with the physical body of the self and into a lighter, more refined, enlightened presence. When all the mirrors become one, and then reach into the higher heart, its magic is where miracles can manifest from the oneness. The mirror becomes a see-through and plasmic membrane that once had kept the self in separation. Now both perceptions of no time and no space continue to exist as omnipresent self experience. And let's continue on to page 658. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another, so I may live and love myself for doing it. And are we really doing it? Or are we like all the ones we blame as the dark ones and the Illuminatis and the Masons and all these brotherhoods that kind of get, or the 1% that kind of have a caste system of hierarchy, you know, like a pyramid where they get the ones below them to do the dirty work, or they get, you know, their poster boys of, like, let's say Biden, or let's say Fauci, who are the scapegoats slash poster boys and girls to do their bidding, or like Trudeau, who's going to have to go somewhere like Hitler did in those days, and kind of maybe possibly South America, and take his family and kind of run away after all of this is done, to kind of avoid the persecution that he's creating for himself. These puppets, as we may, or celebrities, or whatever they might be, these are the ones that indirectly, again, put someone else to work, like the police force, that it's their duty, or the civil workers, or it's their duty. They're not doing it for the beauty. They're not doing it for the passion, like entrepreneurs who work for themselves. It's supposed to be so freelancing. It's not. It's all this independence under the guise of independence that is actually enslavement, that they have no choice, and that they're doing it objectively without taking sides. They're given orders, and it's their duty. And how they feel afterwards, post-traumatic stress syndromes or whatever else they got going on, these are all the symptoms from what they choose to in their behaviors. And so, again, who is responsible? Is it the manager, or is it the workers under the manager? Or is it the owner? Who is the owner? Who is to take responsibility and take ownership? The ones who don't are the ones who are asleep. In this way, are they ignorant, or are they innocent? Are they innocent, or are they ignorant? So how can we equate and compare even to that of a lamb, a child just born, a baby, the babies that we consume? Now we've even gone as far as, from what I've been told, we're actually consuming the females too. Not only are we raping them, but we're consuming them as well, as the only sacrifice, the females, in this kind of ethical, moral creation of this whole cycle that was to be in agreement of these contracts, was that the female only sacrifices through reproducing, and the males by giving their life. And so we are part of the animal kingdom, and this is how it used to be. Now we're going into other territory where we're creating we're destroying all our food supply, and we're creating cricket farms. And the aspiration of so doing, not taking into consideration the parasite worms that take the crickets down and drown them in the pond. The little worms, if you want to ever Google, that come with these, they're parasites that are attracted and infiltrate the host of these crickets. And so when you consume these crickets, you're playing Russian roulette of which ones might have drowned and been taken over. Their minds are taken over by these black little worm parasites. And so, again, the same as the jabs, there is no testing, there is no study. You become the experiment. And so, without even your consent, what are you eating? If you're not taking its life and growing it or killing it yourself, who is taking the responsibility for you? So these are the things that we might want to delve into some more. I will continue reading. The self can create as many worlds to be in all at once, and is careful not to spend too much on one over the other, unless it wishes to experience its finite containment, and from which its ego mind can exist again to signal in as a symptom for its place. And just take a nice deep breath in, because everything I'm saying in the moment, I'm actually channeling through my intake of experience that I have witnessed as a witness. And the information that I am sharing with you, to do as you may. You've been informed now. And it's up to you to be inspired to do the rest on your own as students. So, the soul is limitless when it connects to all its parts. The spirit is the higher self that soul reflects and oversees to teach the self with. The ego mind is what narrows down the infinite to capture for a longer stretch the fleeting moment and to have it stand still in a finite perspective. A place where the self can think it knows to grasp and perfect for its experience the split into the microspection of its over-complicated world and to stress over with such details. I kind of, I did it again. I'm on one of my Facebook groups, and I asked them, so what would you do with $1 billion? It was mind-blowing how much exercise that imagination muscle has atrophied in them. In the way that, I would give it back. I would give it back. If I were given $1 billion, I would give it all back. Oh, all right, girl. In what way would you give it back? Oh, I would have it taken from me anyway, 95% of it. Or only 10% of us are out there, and, or I would give it to my family. I would make lots of friends. If you don't exercise that muscle, and a lot of them don't feel deserving enough, so if they ever come across, they wouldn't accept it. They would reject it right away, and they would feel really guilty, which would bring them down into a criminal level of feeling criminal and a victim perpetrator again. So wanting to fit in and belong, these consequences of dumbing down into a system that atrophies your imagination, the capacity we actually have. So what would you do for $1 billion? Well, if you don't invest, I would have a financial advisor. Are you kidding me? These are the kind of answers I had from this group, from a bunch of ladies that And then I turned around and let them see what happens when you don't use your imagination. And the democratic votes of the politics and what they're doing with your money. They're going to starve you and force you to eat these crickets. You know, $500 million, or even maybe $250 million spent on this largest cricket factory in the world is in London, Ontario. And I'm right now in Ontario, of course, and in Canada. And so it's just mind-boggling how these people, not only do they feel they're not worthy, that they don't deserve, but they can't dream or allow themselves to go any higher than their ego limitations. And so, what is it? Is it the doubts that will kill them? The uncertainty? The levels of addiction to debt? So, I am teaching a way forward where, what if you had all the abundance in the world as we came from the mother that provides? As we, you know, in the womb even, we had everything. And when we came out, we were, you know, just robbed of it. But we don't have to allow that rejection in. We don't have to allow these. When we wake up, and here we go, we fell asleep again. So as soon as I said when we wake up, the computer went to sleep. And it might be, have to redo this again, this whole episode. So never the same twice. And so I will continue reading. It's just that there's other ways, and the inverted backwards way of the illusion to entrap us in is not the way. That's not the way to sovereignty. That's the way to enslavement in the guise of independence. I will continue on. The soul is limitless when it connects to all its parts. The spirit is the higher self that soul reflects and oversees to teach the self with. The ego mind is what narrows down the infinite to capture for a longer stretch the fleeting moment and to have it stand still in the finite perspective. A place where the self can think it knows, to grasp and perfect for its experience the split into the microspection of its complicated world, and to stress over with such details. Just breathe that in for a moment, what has been said. And the moment that the trust to move through shifting process of the self, more light than matter, will not require the consuming and procreating of the old illusion of its life and death program. Can we live exclusively on love and light, and with the taking in of elemental minerals such as water and the essence of the earth that she provides? You might want to Google breatharians and what level we can obtain, and then perhaps even I can do a few videos on level 5 and 6 and maybe 4, 5, and 6 of the Merkaba as an actual vehicle, and how it's used as a vehicle to take you from one place to another. And that will probably cap, and in conclusion, to the other 1, 2, and 3 levels of initiation. And stay tuned for more to come on that one. And so to integrate so much the higher mind we get from once there was an ego, and from within the heart, its soul will guide the way to spirit. The purpose for today is to keep going on this path, that while we thrive from the integration to enlightenment, we will continue to transcend, and in ways we never once thought possible. And thank you for joining me here today, 264, on what is the soul and how is it different from the ego. And until next time, I hope to see you for day 265 for another episode on lesson 231. And with that said, I will leave you with today's affirmation, activation, and to see what answers the universe will bring forth, and perhaps even trigger the certain feelings to leverage throughout your day in correspondence to this dance called momentum in motion that reanimates us, our soul, through this awareness. And co-creatively, I want to hear you say these words out loud and have them serve you well throughout your day. Take a nice deep breath in. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? Take a nice deep breath in. How can I ever be in love to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? Take another deep breath in. How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it? How can I ever be in love enough to take the life of another so I may live and love myself for doing it?